D.C. is not the first time, I mean, it's not the first city as well, where the president has made crime his focal point. Remember, it's not even the first year he said it. He did it in his first term when he was president before. He did it during the campaign in 2024, trying to be president again. He did it 2 months ago, actually, when he deployed nearly 5,000 National Guard troops to LA. That was to end protests against immigration raids. Remember that? Well, that move, you know, is still being challenged in court, and we haven't seen the end of that yet. But he gave a warning to leaders of other, what he knows as blue cities. He might be next.
We have other cities also that are bad, very bad. You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone.
You know, I have to wonder when I was watching him earlier, what each of the mayors of those cities were thinking when they were called out, whether it was accurate or not, what their reaction might be. So I invited one on. The mayor of one of the cities that Trump said might be on deck. He joins me now. It's Mayor Brandon Scott of Baltimore, Maryland. Mayor, welcome. You know, as I mentioned earlier, look, people have to feel safe. And you can give them all the stats in the world. If they don't feel it, then they're not buying it. You, of course, know that in your district, in your state and city, excuse me, it's different than Washington, D.C., right? Because the president is able to send in the National Guard and take over D.C. police for a period of about 30 days. But a military presence in Washington, D.C., is that the right way to fight crime here, given your experience in Baltimore?
No. And I think we all know that, right? And we all know what the president is doing is really just spitting this right-wing propaganda and using the media and the bully pulpit of the highest office of the land to push things that we know. No one in D.C., my sister mayor is not saying that they don't have issues to work on, but the reality is that D.C.'s violent crime is at a 30-year low. And quite frankly, that's the case for cities around the country. I think it's very notable that each and every one of the cities called out by the president has a black mayor. And most of those cities are seeing historic lows in violent crime. In my city, in Baltimore, we have the fewest amount of homicides through this date on record. That's 50 years, a 50-year low. Maybe we are too far gone from the broken right-wing policies of zero-tolerance policing and all the things that did not make our city safer for all those many years. But we know that having the military there is not the way to do it. The way to drive down violence in cities has been proving. Mayors across the country have brought together law enforcement, the legal community, the actual community through community violence intervention work to reduce violence across this country and cities to lows that we have not seen in decades. The president could learn a lot from us instead of throwing things at us.
You know, interesting hearing your response. Very different than your sister mayor here in Washington, D.C. She walked a fine line with her response, saying that there was no emergency conditions in D.C. She did not openly criticize the president like others have, and perhaps justifiably so. But as I mentioned, different leverage, right, from your counterpart. Baltimore, the District of Columbia. I mean, the license plates alone here remind people about no representation and no elections being able to be voted on by the people here at the federal level. So does that lack of leverage, do you think that explains her approach compared to what you can say?
Well, listen, my sister mayor is in a position that no other mayor in the country
True.
is, right? The federal government has deep control over the District of Columbia, and they have deep control in many different ways, not just with obviously with the National Guard, but with the purse strings. And what she is doing is trying to balance out that reality versus also being able to fight for Washingtonians. And I think that all of us should be thinking about that and how we would perform in that same situation. But the rest of us, we don't have those same issues that our sister mayor in D.C. has, and we are proven. And I think that what we cannot do is allow this to be a distraction.
Sure, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but I am curious in what you've said without the strings. What if the president picks Baltimore next, given the decrease in crime rate, the job that you have done to lower those numbers? You talk about the historic lows. How would the city of Baltimore, under your leadership, react if President Trump orders the National Guard and the FBI into Baltimore?
Well, listen, we would take, as we have seen before, we would take any legal action or any action that we can to work to prevent that. We've seen this and have had this threatened before in 2020 following George Floyd's murder. This isn't the first time on this rodeo, but the reality is that we all know this is a distraction. The president does not want the American people to hear him answer questions about the economy or the Epstein files or that the country has lost its state in the world. Or that we're a less safe nation because of some of the actions that he has taken. And what he's doing is dog whistling through these right-wing propaganda and, quite frankly, racist viewpoints that they have about these cities and trying to convince the American people that what they know is not true. The reality is no mayor is out here saying that we don't have to deal with crime. That's our number one issue that we deal with each and every day. Yeah. But what we are saying is that right now we're safer than we have been in decades, in my lifetime, in most cities. And that's something that each of these mayors should stand on, and something the president should be coming to work alongside them to continue that partnership, which, by the way, has included the local federal law enforcement agencies over these past 4 to 5 years. Why disrupt that simply to push your own agenda? Do what's right for the people.
I'm guessing the president has not reached out to take some guidance or advice from somebody like yourself who has decreased the crime rate. Am I going on a limb by saying I doubt he's made that call?
No, they have not, unfortunately. But we still have a great working relationship with our local federal law enforcement partners. I had the opportunity to stand with some of them just a couple of weeks ago, and we wanted to continue that partnership. And we're going to remain focused on reducing violence in Baltimore. We won't get caught in the dog whistling.
Mayor Brandon Scott, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
You know, I need to hear from someone who knows a thing or two, especially about what it's like to have a military presence in a community, particularly during an emergency. The retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Russell Honore joins us now. You remember, of course, that he led the National Guard response to Hurricane Katrina 20 years ago this month, actually. Welcome, General. Let me dive right in here because, as you know, about 800 National Guard soldiers are going to be activated right here in Washington, D.C. We heard from the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. He says that they won't be involved in, quote, law enforcement functions, but they could still detain people. Listen to this.
There's no rogue law enforcement going on from the National Guard, but there's also the application of common sense. We're not going to have National Guardsmen sitting there like this, seeing a crime committed and not do something about it.
Okay, so unpack that for me. So if they aren't technically involved in law enforcement, but they're not going to sit back and let a crime happen in front of them, what exactly do you anticipate they will be doing? It's not just going to be performative reinforcement, right?
Well, the way the Secretary of Defense described it under Title 32, which gives them the authority under the National Guard to detain people and to stop a crime from happening, and detain people until the police get there, which will then do the police functions. That's normally authorized under what they call Title 32, where normally if they were in a state, D.C. is different. D.C. is a different animal because it doesn't have a governor. Under that case, they will work under federal guidance and the rules of engagements given to them by their chain of command on what they can or cannot do. So I would imagine this guard has a lot of experience working with federal authorities, that you won't see a whole lot of difference in D.C. over the next 30 days than you've seen over the last, other than a lot more police presence. Police presence is good. Nobody argues with that to be able to drive down crime. It's not what the president's doing, it's how he's doing it, Laura, because his audio and his video don't match.